So yeah, as mentioned there, Sarah's session about finding the next step for you. The session for me, it's going to be a shorter one, just about permanent jobs. I'll cover some thoughts on community as well. A lot of us are here, a lot of us are engaging in that as well. So a lot of us have already got the head start because you're here already. You're taking part, you're getting involved, you're engaging as well. So yeah, and thank you for that. If there's any questions as we go, I'm a little slow checking the chat, so feel free to use the raise the hand feature in Teams, and when I notice it, or if Sarah notices it, we'll jump to that when we can. Otherwise, there should be some time for questions at the end. Okay, so first up, I just want to share, really just a thank you to Sarah for inviting me for this. So Sarah mentioned before, we did actually do this session, me, Franco and Sarah, at Scottish Summit. And yeah, it was just going to be a Franco session. Then I believe he reached out to Sarah, got Sarah involved as well for that really good recruiter perspective. And then yet one day on the lead up, I think it was about 2 weeks before Scottish Summit, I got this message come through. So yeah, really kind. I knew they were doing a presentation. That was really thoughtful. So how about that? Do you want to join the presentation as a Permi person? So yeah, I was thinking, yeah, it's quite interesting. Then Sarah said, we think you'd be perfect and you have great community advice too. So again, buttering me up, probably want me to say yes and be part of this thing, right? I know how the game works. So that's fine. Well, I thought I did until I then received this message straight after that. And you've been about a bit too. Thanks, Sarah. So yeah. There's a lot of ways you can read into that, but really grateful the for
nicest possible way.
That's right. And I still joined, I still took part, so it worked. Right. So when we did this session at Scottish Summit, and I kind of surprised Sarah a bit with this this chat, just this honest actual chat we did. Me, Franco and Sarah, we had a good chat on the stage of the being about a bit. I've had a few permanent roles now. This is 25 years. I've been working in IT as a consultant as well as internal IT, and also a bit more on my background. It's a bit more about me. So I'm a Power Platform Solution Architect. I do some training as well as an MCT. I've got a few Microsoft certs, a few other things as well. Some LinkedIn learning courses. And again, I've moved around a few different sectors and worked around the UK and the US. So Sarah, yeah, absolutely right. Hands up. I have been about a bit. So that's why I'm here for this session today. So first I want to start with, and Sarah's covered a lot of this really well, to be honest, is thinking about what do you want for your career as well. So with me, again, I've got this permanent focus. That's been pretty much almost all the roles I've done, bar some little contracts here and there, but not much. And often when I would leave a job, most of my background is pro dev as a .NET developer. And what I would do is find another .NET full stack role next. I wouldn't always think about the progression or about what was next for me. I would just think about the same again. I didn't really have the ambition because I'd had mixed experience with different managers, so management didn't really appeal. I like being hands-on, so I wanted to stay as a coder, and I kind of stayed in this kind of same position for a lot of my career. But some things to think about is, do you want that role progression? Do you want to move or get another role because there's more money? Totally, a valid reason. Absolutely. Do you want to learn enough to go freelance? And we'll learn more about that from Franco later on as well. There's also contracting as an option. Next up is working with a different tech stack. The last few years, I've actually transitioned to low code and mostly Power Platform, which I've doubled down on now. I can use some of the pro dev with that, but it's, I've changed the tech stack and I found it's been a really good fit for me for many reasons, but I won't go into that too much just yet. Do you want to work somewhere with a different culture? I think many of us have experienced that one, some more recently than others, but it might not just be the right fit for you, or it might be that you want more time for community work, or you might work somewhere where they support community efforts a bit more, or have more role progressions, more structure. There's lots of different reasons you might want to move. But also it's important to say, are you happy where you are? I've got a friend that and someone I mentor as well. They're very happy in the role they've got. They're a functional consultant with a Power Platform. They've got no intention of moving at all. They're really happy with the role. It's really fulfilling. They love it. So, it may not be that you need to look to move. Another thing along those lines, I mentioned the tech stack move. So for me, thinking about things like your unique selling proposition or USP as well, there's some things here, there's some examples I'll show here. Obviously, everyone's situation is different. I know there's some great people on the call like Sharon, who's got a wonderful blog. Fantastic, recently became an MVP, very well deserved. Really active member of the community. And, along those lines as well, Nathan Rose, super active in the community. Hopefully I'm going to get to see him at MVP Summit this year, as well as many other friends as well. So there's a lot of people who bring a lot to the community, but it's also thinking about, Nathan was on my podcast recently. He has a background, he went from sales and he went into technology. He's going to be great with pre-sales and dealing with people, dealing with customers. He's got those other skills he can bring to the table. So things like this, do you have a strong technical and soft or essential skills background as well? Have you got leadership skills or come from that background that you could use as maybe a team leader role or, IT management in some form? This one's a bit anecdotal. This is my experience of, do you work in low code, but you've got pro code or pro dev skills as well? That could be brought to the table with things like plugins or PCFs and things like that as well. So that's really kind of the extra string to my bow, or how I would see it at least. Also, do you know several tech stacks as well? We've already covered COBOL in the chat, but also you might know other cloud stacks like Azure and AWS or GCP and other things, as well as say the Power Platform or as well as Dynamics. Many of these things can be brought together and combined, or combined in a new way if you're pioneering a new approach. So just think about, what's different about you? What extra could you bring? Next up is a book recommendation as well. It's called Don't Read This Book, but despite the funny title, it is one of my favorite books that I've had throughout my career. And it's not just been in terms of jobs as well. It does mention there about time management for creative people in the subtitle, but really I'd say this is useful for anyone. So for me, this was useful to think about what are you good at, but what do you love doing? And can you combine that? So a few years ago, I used my, art and illustration skills, use those with the tech skills that I have. Again, skills there as well, maybe, but I brought them together so I could be, creative and technical, and actually started a game development company that I ran for a few years. So it was good fun. It actually just started as a hobby. It wasn't intended as a full job, but it was just a way of, again, bringing a few things together to get the passion back for me, something that I'd really excel at and enjoy doing. And actually, I was part of a BAFTA program, which is quite big here in the UK. I've made a lot of good friends and networked, and people I'm still in touch with today, people who work on Grand Theft Auto, people here in Edinburgh, people who do really big things in the game industry. So, taking that approach, thinking about that. Also, the book is really good. It's quite visual and descriptive about what you enjoy doing, what can you make time for, and things like that. So I'd really recommend it. Really great book. We talked about community before as well, so I'll touch upon a few reasons why you might want to contribute towards the community. A lot of great folks here. I mean, again, I'm looking at Sarah, Franco, many others. Nathan, Stuart Baxter, who co-runs Spug. There's lots of really cool stuff. There's a lot of ways why people might want to contribute. So some examples here, you might want to share knowledge with others. And honestly, that's a big part of my session today. Boosting your personal brand. Hey, that's totally valid as well. And, getting out there is, getting your name out there as well. You might want to network with others. That's really high on my list. And that's the thing I really enjoy the most about the events. And actually at Scottish Summit, Franco had the good suggestion afterwards. We all did a high five in the corridor because it went so well. And that's where a lot of this name comes from, this user group, because, we were networking and being part of something fun. And we knew that when we was on stage having fun, a lot of people watching us taking part were having fun as well. So that's a big motivation why we started this user group. You might want it for personal growth. That was a bit how I started. I actually started with Azure when I was doing community, and that was for me to say, can I learn enough about these Azure services that I'm going to be strong and confident enough to present on them as well. So it kind of forced me to kind of push myself and do that. Next up is to try something new as well. That's totally valid as well. You might want to give something new a try. For me, it was presenting to start with initially. Other people here excel with blogging or running user groups. Could be to demonstrate that you're a subject matter expert as well. Could be to document knowledge for your own reference. I know many people who blog then may face a similar problem a year or two down the line and do a Google or a Bing search, and their own blog comes back to them as well. So it could be that that's useful, paying it forward for yourself as well as others. Could be to improve communication and presentation skills. That's again a win-win if you're a consultant or you deal with customers or others as well. Super useful. And also, again, to get opportunities or make money. There's been times when I've presented, or I know others have, and they've actually had offers for freelance work or employment offers, or let's chat some more after the session as well. So that's entirely a valid option. So in terms of community activities, there are many different ways we can. Of course, we're presenting right here, but you can also help on forums. You can do blogging as well. Again, we've got some experts in the room already with us right now. Helping on forums, actually back to that one, that's one of the favorites for me. One, I like helping people, but also sometimes if it's a problem I've not seen before, it's going to push me and stretch me to try something new as well. Creating videos as well, some people are experts with that one. Speaking at user groups and conferences, like we are today. Also being an organizer or being a volunteer or a staff for a user group or a conference as well. Mentioned the volunteering there as well. I actually volunteer for a couple of conferences. I know others do. So for me, like Data Scotland, that's one of the favorites for me, and Festive Tech Calendar as well, which just passed us by in December there as well. So if you don't want to commit or you don't have the time to commit full time for something, you might be able to help with the emails, or again, moderate the chat or moderate a Q&A or help in other ways. You can contribute to open source projects on GitHub. I know Power Apps, I've submitted a Power App sample before, and some other people have done lots of that as well. So yeah, really good way to contribute. You can do it in many different ways as well. Sometimes the Microsoft community like us to help on the moderation side, the other side of the community wall there. So if there's a pull request or something on GitHub, you might be able to help on that side of the wall to accept those submissions. Mentoring as well. Cliche as it is, I actually learn a lot from my mentees, as well as hopefully they learn from me. I've actually got mentors myself, and I mentor several people as well. Being active on social media, I do know many people who do this, and even WhatsApp groups to help others with questions as well. It's so important, really useful. Another one as well is creating or being part of a podcast as well. I've done that for a little while, for just over a year, and it's a lot of fun. It's really good. So can highly recommend that one. One thing I'll move on to as well, just before we get to the break, before the main course, that is Franco's session, but using that unique voice and perspective, it's a bit like going back to the USP we talked about, where if you've got a background, so some folks here, you might recognize some of the faces. Nat is awesome. She's got a different background entirely. Again, I've got some creative skills. Matt used to be an accountant as well, has been one of those career switchers. And Angie and many other people, love music, songwriters, or come from different backgrounds. So it could be that directly or indirectly, you might be able to combine those backgrounds that you've got when you do a blog or when you present, or no matter what you do. Nothing in terms of the community, but as well as, just in terms of permanent careers as well, is also looking, if you are a permanent employee, how can your employer help you? Have they got any benefits or support? So, will they contribute towards any of the community activities that you do? Some of them do give learning and development days that you might be able to use to attend a conference. Can they contribute towards any exam costs like the Microsoft exams? Some might fully or part pay towards them. or they might do on the first attempt, but if you need to do a retake, you personally pay. Sometimes these are up for asking your employer, can they help you? Another one as well, I know, money is a factor, but many of us are very busy people these days, whether you've got dependents or commitments at home, so sometimes time is the currency that we've got. So, would your employer consider allowing you to study during work hours? Again, like those learning and development days, you might need to put a business case forward for that, but it could be super, super useful just to ask that question or ask around, see if they provide that support already. And it wouldn't be a session if I didn't mention Copilot. So yeah, apologies for this, but other generative AI services are available. Yeah. But genuinely, just asking those things. This example question I've got right here. I'm a Power Platform FC. I'm an architect. I'm a consultant. What career progression options do I have? What training would you recommend? What's my next step? You might get some food for thought. You might get some good ideas there that are really worth looking into. So, hey, why not utilize that service? One thing that I'll finish up with as well is there are some really good courses and kind of mentoring programs and challenges out there. A favorite for me, me and Nathan actually put a video together on this, quite a while ago, is, the 90-day mentoring challenge has been one of the highlights for me. There have been many other good ones I've done. It is a paid course. It's not free. Courses like this, they are great if you're struggling to find direction, or if you've got the ambition to take it to the next level, or you're looking to say, again, what are my options? What next should I think about? Okay, I love working with people. I like the sales side. Maybe I might switch from consultant to pre-sales. Who knows? But there's a lot of good food for thought and a great chance to network with with other people. So I met great people like Nathan Rose, Anna Black, many others, through this challenge. And they were just on my cohort. There's other cohorts before and after with other great people on it too. So Mark and Meg Smith run this one, many years in the industry, thought leaders, super experts. The link for this one, I just noticed a question in the chat, is 90daymc.com. Highly recommend that as well. If you do know anyone who's been on a course recently, I don't think I have mine, but there may be discount vouchers as well. So if you do know anyone, sometimes, I think when I did mine, it was a year ago now, so mine's not valid anymore, but there were some discounts given out if anyone wanted to join the course. Again, I should say other courses are available. This is, dedicated to mentoring and looking at those next steps, delving deeper into the community side. What can you do? What would you want to do, if any at all? It's absolutely fine.
Just a quick one on that, Keith, on the 90-day mentoring challenge. If you listen to any of Mark Smith's podcasts, he always offers a voucher discount just by saying whatever the podcast that it is. So just listen to one of his podcasts and you'll get a discount if you're interested in the 90-day mentoring challenge.
Pro tip. Thanks, Sharon. That's really good. Yeah, that's really good to know, actually. So yeah, good another good reason to listen to the podcast, which is brilliant as well. And he's had some real big names and real stars on there as well. So there's a lot to learn from that podcast. Really good. So yeah, if you're still with me, thanks for sticking with it. We've made it to the end of my session. If anyone's got any questions, we don't have time. We can cover some just now, but if it doesn't get answered, do scan the QR code, reach out to me and connect with me online. Always happy to help out as well. Or if you think of something later, please do that. So thanks so much.
Everyone dropped off, Keith. Sorry, there's no questions.
There's just 3 people left now, is it? Right, yeah.
So I'm joking. That was really good. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, folks. Yeah, is there anything jumping out in the chat there, Sarah? I've not.
There's a couple. Mark asked, this is maybe one for both of us, I don't know. What areas in the Power Platform do you feel is lacking in focus in the community that if someone learned would be a beneficial skill on a CV? So voids in the community knowledge base. That's a tough question because there's so much content out there, isn't it?
There is. It's a great question as well, but I think you're right. Someone asked me that about a year ago, and someone was saying, oh, Copilot, it's going to be a big thing. It's still fairly new. I don't see much content. Jump on it. Now, I think that boat may have sailed a bit, but you can still add your own voice and contribute by any means. But yeah, I do know people who are looking maybe a year ago to say, where's the a gap in the market, if you will? Where's something that's maybe a little underserved at the moment? But I think, yeah, in the last 6 months plus, there's been such a flood of content from so many great contributors that really I don't see myself anyway, kind of any obvious gaps of, hey, no one's talking about this, do this one. But I'd recommend, just trying a few different things, find your feet. For me, I'm okay at presenting. I'll give it a go. Blogging, yeah, so, but I tend to gravitate towards the things maybe I enjoy the most, whether I'm good or not. I'll do it more because I enjoy it, right?
I was going to, I was thinking that it's something that you feel like you're doing well yourself, isn't it? Something you're passionate about, probably, rather than where there's a gap. Maybe give your own take on what it is you're doing is probably the best way to choose. And also there was a request for the recording of that video, so Nathan's kindly shared that in the chat.
Yes, you will do, actually. I'll put it in the chat. I'll search that one out. Or Nathan, if you beat me to it, just you go for it.
He's done it.
Oh,
he's on
superstar. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great. And then Benji suggested, hi Benji, the contact centre is the next one, which, there's a lot of change going on there, isn't there? So
yeah, nice one. Great stuff. Great. Cool. Any other questions? Are we good?
There's no hands up for any other questions in the chat. So thank you very much, Keith. That was awesome, obviously.
Great. Thanks so much for all the questions. Yeah, really appreciate that. And thanks, Sarah, for looking after the chat. And really.
Oh, hold on. We've got a hand up, Gabrielle. Hey.
Gabrielle's just snuck in there. Go for it, Gabrielle.
Sorry, I decided last second. I actually did have one question, and I think this is kind of a good one for both you, Keith and Sarah. You started with the joke at the beginning that you've been around. That's one question on my mind, is when applying for the jobs, what's a good timeline? Does it scare employers if you haven't been somewhere for a year? What's a good time to want to stay somewhere before you're ready to move on?
Go for it, Sarah. It might be one for you to start with.
I think it's a tough one. You don't want to, if you're jumping around a lot through permanent roles, there's possibly an issue there. People will forgive one or two mistakes if you've made bad moves, and if you can justify really what the reason was for that. Usually in tech, sort of 2 to 3 years in the sort of traditional tech space that I know, but I did some research for this session at Scottish Summit, and the average tenure for somebody with Power Platform in the job title was about 14 months, which is low. For me, and when I've spoken with CTOs about those stats, they've been quite shocked, and it's not a positive thing as far as I'm concerned. I think it's the good and bad in the community, isn't it? That, there's a lot of people talking about what opportunities there are and trying to kind of maybe tempt you away to somewhere else. But I think for your own personal progression, you probably want to get stuck into some decent projects and some lengthy employment. But it's making that right choice when you make the move, isn't it? Or at least being as informed as you can before you accept a role. I know it's not quite an exact answer, but I think it does depend on the circumstances. Keith, have you got anything to add?
And I guess on the flip side of that, Keith, what's your experience been?
Yeah, I think it's a really good answer. Thanks, Sarah. And for me, it's been, because I've been about a bit. There's been a few moves where I've moved from the UK to the US. It was my job took me there to the headquarters for a pharmaceutical company. So I still stayed with the same company, but it kind of cut that tenure short just there, if you will. I've had a couple of jobs where I've been lucky enough to be headhunted in the last few years. So again, they can be good answers to give if the tenure was a little short, or it wasn't the right cultural fit. I've certainly had that at least once as well. So I think, Sarah mentioned, if you can give good answers, and I've got some friends who've moved quite a few times in the last 3 or 4 years, but they've all got great answers. It's been cultural fit, or they've gone for the next rung in the ladder, which their current employer could not offer, or they've really wanted to scratch the itch of trying contracting or freelancing. So they said, look, no time like the present, just go for it now. So there's many good reasons to move on. I think some roles I've had have been there 5 years plus, and I've got many roles where it's between the 1 and 2 year mark. But I think everyone's journey is different. But good question though, really good.
Thank you both.
Nice one.
Thank you, Keith. We've had James and Judy have just snuck in. Can we give a couple of minutes and then go to Franco?
A couple of minutes, and then a couple of minutes. Go for it, guys. James up first, I think.
Yeah, it was just when you mentioned headhunted, it was just an experience I've had in the past where someone was headhunted and then their career in that organisation stalled out because it appeared to be the thought that, well, if we were able to headhunt you, someone else can headhunt you in the future, and therefore it's not worth investing time in progressing your career. Is that something that you've come across, or was that a bit of a anecdotal one? That if you get headhunted once, you don't get trusted?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, yeah, there could be many reasons to switch, and it could be such a tempting offer, or where you currently stay, they can't compete with it. But you're right, it's also think about what's best for you, and if it's if someone does approach you and it's the right role, and you can't fix it where you are, or you can't get the same opportunity where you are. You're right. Maybe it could be seen as a potential flight risk, but hopefully, if you prove your worth and you are loyal and it's a good fit. I always think Sarah covers this thing really well before of never moving just for money. So if you're somewhere and if there is an issue and you can speak up and get it fixed, it's always the way to go. But sometimes you can exhaust those options and it's time to move. But it's a good point, James. Yeah, thanks for raising that.